We have established that the first metaphysical law of the universe, the first spiritual principle of the universe, the very foundation on which all reality rests, is unity. We've established that there is a primordial presence that is self-existing, that constitutes existence itself, and within which all things live and move and have their being. A question arises, therefore, if this presence is all that is, how is life possible? Since in order for life to happen, there must be a relationship. For example, water flows downhill as a response to the gravitational field that exists between the high altitude and the low altitude. A similar occurrence exists within the electrical field within which current flows. There is a positive pole and a negative pole. Same thing with magnetism. There's a north pole and a south pole, and the resulting field creates the flow of energy that we call magnetism. If you look at nature itself, there is a sexual pull, a sexual attraction that takes place between the polar opposites of male and female. And even in biology, when you talk of osmosis, you're talking of a movement from a zone of low concentration to a zone of high concentration, movement of water. So, life can be considered as a movement within a field. And this movement is the response to an urge for this field to balance itself. So at any given time, you have an entity that is in a state of excitation that has a tendency to return to the state of rest. And this return is a movement. This movement is fueled by the shedding of the excess energy that this entity has, this charged particle has. If we use the law of correspondence to extrapolate this natural law into infinity, we will arrive at the concept of the Trinity. The primordial presence is divine mind. It is consciousness in nature. Existing within itself in its purest state, in its state of originality, it is pure awareness. When pure awareness becomes aware of itself, then it generates self-awareness. Remember that pure awareness is the totality of being in its pure unconditioned state. Self-awareness is that which this being is contemplating itself as. Therefore, self-contemplation is actually a self-definition. The I am is the essence of being in its original state. The I am that I am is the self-identification of this awareness, this consciousness. So, within the primordial presence, something emerges which we may call an identity or an individuality. So if we call the source Father, then logically, the identity that the Father generates within itself as a mirror through which it contemplates itself, that identity would be personified as Mother. And so we have the Father and the Mother aspects of the primordial presence. Now that we have our polar opposites of male and female, we now have a field, a potential difference, through which the totality of being, the pure potentiality that exists within the Father, willingly, spontaneously overflows, pours out itself into the Mother, the identity, the individuality that it is contemplating itself as. And this is how life is generated. The Logos, the will, the divine intention that serves as a motive force of life is actually that which we call grace or unconditional love. It is the self-outpouring of the Father into the Mother, the source into the identity or individuality that exists within the primordial presence. And so that which proceeds from the Father aspect and the Mother aspect, which we have called grace or unconditional love, is logically the Son. And so we have the Trinity, the triune presence of Father, Mother, and Son that makes up the divine essence. Now, I would like us to pay attention to the meaning of the word holy. Holy is actually a derivative of the word whole, to be full, totality, perfection. And spirit does not mean ghost, the way theologians translate it as. Spirit means essence, nature, truth, or reality. Therefore, the concept of Holy Spirit actually means the wholeness of being, the whole essence of life. And in this presentation, what I have shown you is that the whole essence of life, or the Holy Spirit of life, is actually this triune essence of Father, which is the pure, unconditioned awareness, Mother, which is the self-identification or the self-awareness that exists within the source, and the Son, which is the unconditional love or grace or divine will, or the spontaneous outpouring of pure potentiality into expression. Therefore, it is true that without the Word, there is nothing made that was made, because all of creation is simply the outward expression of this Logos, this Word, this love, this grace, this Son.